All right, good. So thanks for that comment, Deal. And in the video, we would have realized that it's about taking an idea, transforming it, creating wealth, as well as so that we can improve society. So we're kind of seeing how innovation moves along to entrepreneurship.
Stacey, we have Dr. Mohammed saying having an idea and testing it, also improving existing solutions.
Right. Anybody want to give me an example of taking a product and transforming it from what it was to what it is now? Simple example.
Well, I'll give an example. Well, back then in the late 80s, I know the existence of cars would have been in existence with gas and fuel. I mean, now we are at a stage with hybrid and some fully electric. I mean, that is a form of innovation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good. That's a good example, actually. Yeah. Anybody else want to give an example?
I would say the cell phone.
Oh, there's always something happening with cell phones. Yeah. For example, Chris?
Huh?
For example, give me an example of some upgrade or innovation.
I would say in terms of the connectivity, because now they're transitioning into 5G. So you see the connectivity improving as the years go by. So it's only going to improve later on. So sky's the limit, I guess, in terms of how we can share information and the size at which we can share.
Yeah, and even when you brought up that example of the cell phone, there's always upgrades. There's a more durable phone, stronger screen. There's always more innovation in terms of upgrades in the cameras, the number of cameras, the megapixels, and it's limitless, and we see innovation happening in everything. Are there risks in innovation?
Yes, there's always risk.
Tell me.
Remember, you came up with an idea. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. And only when you take the risk, then you would know.
And what about the entrepreneur? How many risks involved?
I think you
One
have
may be financial, and one may be more of work ethics. Probably, I would say, if it's innovation, the risk will be you're not sure if what will come out of it because you're innovation, you're thinking about something. But persistence, more or less, take care of that. I feel more persistence here, you would get you with the innovation in just a matter of time. Where entrepreneurship is concerned with risk taking, it is more a tangible thing. You find like you would like it might be finance or go into business with someone or something like that. So that's more or less one kind of more intangible and one tangible.
Correct.
And I would also say that entrepreneurs have to take it's more like a calculated risk for us, because even though our idea might be novel, it should also be applicable and useful to society in order for they to be able to want to implement it.
Correct. It must have value. But another way of thinking about risk, innovator. I come up with this idea. There's actually no real risk if it is not implemented, if you understand.
Exactly.
I could come up with another idea and I could come up with 100 ideas, but there's no real risk to anybody. But when you implement it, when an entrepreneur takes this idea into a product, that's where the risk goes. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to buy it. No demand. You have no profit. You understand?
If I may add,
Sure.
there is one risk to the innovator in terms of once they start sharing that idea. They may not implement it, but once they do start sharing, it is possible that someone can steal their idea and take all the credit for it. And then they get nothing.
Definitely, yeah. That is a risk if you don't move it forward. Yeah, and the entrepreneur could be the one that runs off with it.
True.
Yeah. Goals. What's the goals of innovation? Goals of entrepreneurship.
The goals of innovation might be to get your idea out there, to make that idea become a reality.
Yeah.
For a product or solution that will be utilized.
Right. To deal with some kind of pain point, some problem in the society. Yeah.
That's right.
The goals of the entrepreneur. That's easy, right?
the goal of the entrepreneur could be simply to just have a good service to the people, you know, to be a good help to the people. And the goals could be to make a profit. You know, it's a different size of it as well when it comes to goals. Some people just like to be of good service, have a good service. It's in their blood and they love to do it. And the next man will be there just for pure profit. His goal is just profit.
Right. But ultimately,
But in order to make profits, you must have a good product or a good service.
But that also takes a lot of work. It's not just having it, because you will have to do surveys, you will have to do a lot of research, because you can't just take a product and put it outside and expect you're going to make money. You have to do a whole series of things before you can put that product outside there. You know, so at least you will have a ballpark, an idea who's your target market and who you want to send this product to, who you will target. And if you do that homework, well, then they say that that's not a risk. It's a foolish step, you know, because your risk really come when you have a product that is validated. You know that you know, well, I went through this research. I know who I'm targeting. I know who what social media I'm going to put this up because that is where my crowd is. You know, it's a lot of things before you can really come into what they were not talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're looking at good service, good product, good experience, which ultimately leads to creation of profit and wealth. Yeah. All right. And we saw that entrepreneurs need to have a certain kind of skill set, some kind of ability to solve problems, overcome obstacles. All right. So how do we build this entrepreneurial mindset? All right, so that we have to look at things in the view that, right, everything is considered as a business. All right, that's your main goal, that's your mindset. All right, you want to achieve your goals. Successful entrepreneurs embrace challenges, they make mistakes, they learn from their failures, and they use these new skill sets to help them succeed in the future. All right, having a right mindset about a business, you know, can cause the success is important or critical in causing the sustainability or success of your business. I just want to say that, you know, although you may think you may not have that kind of mindset now, these are skills that you can hone in no matter your current situation. And why I say that is that anybody could just fathom a guess on how many prototypes Dyson did.
100.
I was going to say 100 as well.
100, good guess. Yeah. Anybody else want to just throw out ideas here for me?
39.
39. You're going with WD-40 there. All right. So actually, the inventor, he tested 5,271 prototypes. All right. Because it just wasn't working. But he had this belief that this is going to be big. This product is going to work. This is going to improve society. All right. So after these 5,271 prototypes, he finally got it to work. So he went out there and he says, here what? I'm going to manufacturers in the US and see if they would manufacture this product. No one believed in him. They said, no, sorry. He went to Europe and he asked them to, you know, could you help me build this product? Nobody wanted it. After his 5,271 prototypes. And then he decided, you know what? I am going to manufacture this myself. I'm going to have my own manufacturing company. And within 2 years, his product was a worldwide success. Now that illustrates an amazing entrepreneurial mindset.
What is Fab Lab? Fab Lab is a project that came out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and it was the brainchild of Dr. Neil Gershenfeld, who basically ran at the time the first Fab Lab, which was the Center for Bits and Atoms. Now, what Dr. Gershenfeld had identified was that he ran a course called How to Make Almost Anything. So it's basically a course where he had his students come to the center and they basically were able to be creative and innovative. And from that experience, he realized the need for persons to have access to these services. And so he created the idea of Fab Labs. And from that, they actually developed the Fab Foundation, which oversees all the activities related to Fab Labs and their initiatives. Now, users of a Fab Lab. This could range from children to adults, persons in different fields, whether it be a hobbyist, an engineer, a teacher who may be looking to make some activities for her students, and even the students themselves, where it's basically a makerspace whereby they can come, learn about technology, and actually be creative and innovative. Now, the locations, as I mentioned, where they wanted to have Fab Labs located across the world, these are just some of the locations where Fab Labs are located throughout the world. Some of them are now establishing, and they're even at the point where they're having Fab Labs create other Fab Labs for the equipment that is used in the labs. Into some of the activities that the lab performs. So I know I would have been mentioning it as Fab Lab all this time, but we actually have two areas. We have the Creative Design Lab, where all of these equipment are placed. And then we have the Robomania Lab, where we basically teach persons about robotics and robotic technology. It's also from that lab where we would do first Lego League, which we recently completed, which is a robotics competition where it gets kids involved in competition, as they say, which is healthy competition, and also gracious professionalism, where they learn to compete graciously amongst various teams in the field of robotics and basically having them identify problems and come up with solutions. So the first area we look at is rotation. So when the lab was open, we actually did rotations with various schools or various groups that would come to the Science Center to basically show them what technology we have available and highlight them to various aspects of how the technology could be used and whatever services that we offer. The next area would be workshops. So we basically teach persons on various areas, whether it be CAD, CAM, to use the 3D printer and various services. These workshops that we're conducting now will eventually fall into some of these workshops where we offer different activities to the public so that they can get a all-around service. All of these would have come up from initiatives where we saw from clients coming to the lab and actually identifying that they needed to get more assistance in various areas. And this is our way of trying to supply that need that the clients would have indicated. Another one would be outreaches. So outreaches basically refer to when we get requests from various groups or schools in terms of they may not be able to come to the Science Center, but they would like us to come and do a display, so that we would go to these areas, carry various technologies and various equipment and basically do a display there. In some cases, it would be like electronic components. Either we would carry a laptop to show persons the software that we use, or we'd even carry a 3D printer to show persons how the 3D printer can be used and how they could potentially use it. And the last one would be Fab Lab jobs, where persons would contact us with a particular idea they may want to have, and we would try to assist them as best as we could. All right. So what I'm going to go through now is design thinking. So let's just say, what is design thinking? So basically, design thinking is the process which looks to solve problems by approaching it from the user's perspective. So it basically puts the emphasis on the user rather than the product. So in most cases, sometimes we come up with the product first and then want to look at the users. But in the ideal case, you may want to look at what your user really wants and developing a product or a service that could best reach them. All right. So we'll now go through the design thinking process. So the first phase is to empathize. So one of the key parts of that is really to identify your target audience. Now, if I were to do a survey in the room, who could identify their target audience if they have a business? Anybody? These people are a little bit shy. All right. So the target audience, you really want to look at a key specific group of people who are going to use your particular product or service. In some cases, you could do something and it could reach a wide spectrum. You can make it general and it could reach everyone. But in most cases, if you have an idea of who your age group is going to, or the age group of the persons who you're going to do, whether it's teenagers, early adults, persons in their 30s and stuff like that, you can better target what you're doing to suit that particular audience needs. Another thing you'd want to do is engage and observe your target audience. So once you've identified who your target audience is, you'll want to basically engage them, whether it be through interviews or surveys, to find out what it is that their interests lie. And to move on from that, you'd also want to know what are the challenges and what their needs are. So once you have a clear picture of this, you'd better be able to come up with things or ideas that could reach them better. Right? The next one is, once you've identified your target audience, so you have an idea of who the group of people that you're targeting your product or service to, you want to make sure you create now a problem statement, which is basically just highlighting what the major problem is. Now, most times you could write a whole essay on what the problems are for the particular target audience, but you want to narrow it down into a key area which you feel that you can address. Right? And the second thing is that this might sound a little strange for some persons, but you want to focus on the needs of the user or your customer more than the business goals at this point, because you're really looking at focusing or human-centered, meaning that you're targeting whatever solution you're creating for a particular user. The next thing is you want to ideate. Now, this basically means you've now identified your group, you understand what their challenges and their needs are, you've defined it, you've written it down, you've focused on the key ones that you feel that you can address. You now want to come up with potential solutions to these problems that you have identified. So one of the key things is to collaborate with others. You will have a team, you could have your family, you could have your friends, you could have your business partners. The purpose of that is that sometimes if you're in isolation and you're the only one looking at a particular issue, it's sometimes you go down a road of tunnel vision because you tend to be closed in on what you want and what you feel the customer needs. And sometimes it takes someone, I'm sure everyone would have had that experience where you have a certain scenario, you have an idea of how you want to solve it, and then someone may come and give you a suggestion that you never thought about or you never looked at it in that particular perspective, and it actually made sense. The next thing is prototypes. After you've fixed a particular solution or solutions, you want to come up with a prototype of it. The purpose of this is that you need customers to actually use what you've created and for you to get feedback from them in order for you to redefine and make improvements for it. Modify or make modifications to your prototypes to suit what the users or your user experience. Yes, you may have an idea, you may feel it works best this particular way, but if through your feedback from your customers, you realize that they either prefer it this particular way, this is where you can either make small modification or variations that you could sell variations to suit those particular clients or even a new segment that you never catered for.